Today I'm a screever, and as you can see, a screever's an artist of highest degree, and it's all my own work from my own memory. What makes someone family? Is it blood or is it something deeper? I've always had a weird thing when it comes to family. The word itself never feels quite right, carrying this strange mix of longing and confusion. I've never known that unshakable loyalty to blood relatives that so many people seem to take for granted. But at the same time, I've often wondered, do I even want that kind of bond in my life? Who would I be if I had it? Would I be softer or just more cynical? Would my resting bitch face be worse? Or would I have a playful, perpetual smirk? This past month, I've been reflecting on how different my experiences are from those around me, even from people who didn't grow up in loving, family centric households. I fall squarely into the Fast and the Furious style of family building. It's not about blood, it's about who shows up. My chosen family, a mix of friends, crewmates, and chaos enablers who have been my rock. They've helped me cope, survive, and sometimes even thrive through life's challenges. That's why living single hits so close to home. Sure, Khadijah and Sinclair are literal cousins, but for the most part, the show highlights the struggles and disappointments of traditional family ties. Instead, it celebrates the chosen family, the people you come home to when the world falls apart. It's a reminder that the family you choose can mean just as much, if not more, than the one you're born into. Let's be real, there's something magical about creating your own tribe. It's not about obligation, it's about choice. Not just your choice, but theirs. Having people actively choose you day after day to confide in, laugh with, and support, it hits different. I wish there was a word for it that goes beyond love, because love just feels too simple for what that is. Whatever that word would be, it's on full display across all 5 seasons of Living Single. Now, coming fresh off of something like Sex and the City, Living Single threw me for a loop for sure. Sex and the City gives you neatly packaged, predictable tropes. There's the flirty one, the neurotic one, blah, 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 the fashion and finance miracle worker whose choices with money are somehow both aspirational and a warning. It's easy to digest because it's so glossy and all wrapped up in 90s prints and patent leather footwear. But living single is messier. And I mean that in the best way possible. There's an air about it that feels easier to step into. Whereas Sex and the City is a world I wish I could taste in an impossibly unrealistic way, living single is a world that feels obtainable, real. You've got Khadijah, the no nonsense, business minded queen, Max, the chaos gremlin, Regine, the bougie diva, Sinclair, the bubbly cartoon character, and Kyle and Overton, whose opposites attract bromance is better than half the romantic pairings I've seen on TV. I'll admit that Sinclair took some time to grow on me. Her cartoony mannerisms had me flashing back to anyone who's seen the blooper reel from Liar Liar where Swoozie Kurtz yells, "Overactor!" That's what popped into my head every single time Sinclair made a face. But once I adjusted, I just couldn't stop watching. Khadijah quickly became my favorite character. I see a lot of myself in her, maybe too much. Sometimes I wonder if the way I see Khadijah and the way the people around her do in the show mirrors how you guys see me. Although that might be giving myself a little too much credit. She's loyal, she's grounded, she's ambitious, but she's flawed in the ways that make her feel real, just like the rest of the show. Although watching her settle for Scooter, a man who was the human equivalent of a 3-day-old croissant, was frustrating. She deserved better. Seriously, Khadijah needed someone who matched her energy, not a flighty DJ who pops in and out like bad Wi Fi. But let's move on to Max. Oh, Max. She's the chaotic friend who crashes brunch uninvited, drinks everyone's mimosas, and leaves you with the bill of the mess and the furious waiter. I couldn't believe it when she ended up with Kyle, my actual favorite character. It honestly felt like a personal betrayal. But then again, during a live stream, I did geek out when I learned that T.C. Carson, the actor who played Kyle, was the original voice actor of Kratos in God of War. That's right. Kyle Barker went from Shakespearean level sass to ripping heads off of hydras and slashing through the Greek pantheon. Envisioning that, Max dating Kratos, made me feel slightly better. It was like a poetic just desserts for someone who effortlessly makes fat jokes about one of the kindest characters on the show. I mean, I'd have loved to see a season where Max dealt with pregnancy and had to confront herself for once, but hey, we can fantasize. While the romantic aspects of the show in general frustrated me to the point of pillow screaming and hair pulling, I couldn't get enough of the group's dynamics as a whole. I mean, come on, Overton and Sinclair, they're beyond perfect. They're the mom and dad friends who keep the chaos gremlins in check. Their sweet, steady romance balanced out Max's sharper jokes and Regine's bougie drama, especially in the later episodes when Regine hit some of her more insufferable points. Overton, in particular, had this really nifty way of cutting her down effortlessly. He could throw out a one liner that was funny without ever really being mean or cutthroat in a way that she didn't actually deserve. Regine, by the way, is a whole mood. She likely invented the extra aesthetic long before it became a thing on social media. She's the friend who will absolutely steal your fries, but only after Instagramming her own meal. She's not my favorite, obviously, but I appreciate how the show used her to poke fun at materialism without letting her slip into a total caricature. What really stood out to me was how her vanity and over the top perfection became a part of her charm eventually. I couldn't help but notice that as time crept by, her wigs just became more and more obvious. And that was always a part of the gag somehow. She's so well put together, so polished, but her hair always gave her away, and that only added to her character. The writers took advantage of those flaws and made them a part of the joke without making her unlikable from one facet to the next. There was even this special moment in the supposed last Kyle Barker episode that absolutely stole my heart. Kyle kisses Regine on the forehead to say goodbye, and she lifts the bangs of her wig off of her head to let him. The moment was unbelievably precious, a funny, light-hearted touch that reminded you that Regine isn't as terrible as you want to believe she is. It was such a humanizing little detail, and one that surprisingly stayed with me since completing the show. When it all comes together, the laughter, the fights, the moments of vulnerability, it's not just a sitcom. It's a blueprint for a chosen family and how things work when you have so many clashing personalities under one roof. It's a show that understands the beauty and strength of Chosen Family, which makes it all the more surprising that it didn't receive the same level of recognition as its supposed counterpart, Friends, that was released about a year later. The elephant in the room is how eerily similar the concepts are. Living Single hit the airwaves first in 1993, showcasing the lives of six friends, navigating careers, relationships, and life in a Brooklyn brownstone. Just a year later, Friends debuted with its six pals hanging out in a Manhattan apartment. The glaring implications of these situations aside, Friends became a pop culture juggernaut, racking up accolades and endless reruns. And it's frustrating that Living Single didn't get the same level of recognition despite arguably doing everything better. I didn't even know Living Single existed until this year. Where Friends often leaned heavily on romantic entanglements and a revolving door of messy dating drama, I mean, it literally starts with Ross divorcing his wife, who is now a lesbian, but also having his baby. Honestly, Living Single celebrated the strength of bonds between people, instead of putting barriers in between them. Sure, they're both products of the 90s, so there are things that they both could have done better, but seeing as they are both products of the 90s, there is one glaringly better option to choose. Living Single had depth, and it defined its relationships that Friends lacked. In the series, the friend group tackled its issues respectfully without using them for punchlines the way that Friends did, and in fact, the humanizing little detail that I mentioned earlier becomes that much more touching when you realize it's hard for Regine to say goodbye to Kyle on a much deeper level. They weren't just neighbors or friends. They built that relationship over years and several transitions, all starting from when they dated. Maybe there's even an underlying reason that Regine hates Max beyond the fact that she eats up all their food and never goes home. It's not a one-dimensional thing that is spoon-fed to you through comedy. And those different relationship dynamics are explored in a genuine way, if even briefly. It's not out of character for these people to act the way that they do and develop in the ways that they do. It all falls in line with their morals and life paths, whereas in Friends, it's very, very different. Living Single was less about who's dating who and more about who's got your back. While I will always have a soft spot for Friends, Matthew Perry specifically, one can't argue that Living Single focused on creating a familial environment where the characters supported and challenged each other in equal measure. It's impossible not to wonder what Living Single's legacy might look like if it had been given the same push, the same marketing budget, and the same golden child treatment that Friends got. The fact that Friends is often credited with inventing this format feels, at best, disingenuous. Living Single definitely captured something more raw and authentic. It showed the beauty of chosen family, how people come together to face life's ups and downs with humor, love, and resilience. I'm glad that I had a chance to watch it now at this age to appreciate it for what it is. It reminds me of my own chosen family, my chaotic ride or die crew. The brunch bitches, the couch and foodie gangs of the BK and the BX, the soon to be vampire slayers of the Crimson Citadel in D&D. The friends who show up when it matters, who've seen me at my best and my absolute worst, and who are still here along the way. Time management problems aside. In the end, the beauty of Living Single is how it captures these imperfect but lovable characters in a way that makes you root for them, laugh with them, and sometimes want to yell at them through the screen. Fucking Maxine. It was relatable without being too heavy or even boring. The show feels like a snapshot of your life in your 20s and 30s. The awkward, messy, hilarious moments that define growing up and figuring out who you are, all while leaning on the people who matter most. It made me think about what family means and who I consider to be mine. And in a world that feels more isolating than ever, that's a message we could all use. Also, I'm gonna be carrying a torch for TC Carson for the actual rest of my fucking life. That man's voice could convince me to pay full price for anything. And I'm Puerto Rican. We don't fucking do that. Anyway, did you watch Living Single? Who's your favorite character? Comment below now. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This is some art that I did of my OC dressed up as a 90s sitcom character. I did not think that she would turn out as well as she did, and I absolutely adore it. So I'm kind of debating on whether or not I want to have her printed. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later. Love you.